Welcome back to another review by Mega Train Lover. Today we're having a look at the second of 5 locos which I got at the London Festival of Railway Modelling, and this one, as you can see, is another Bachmann model, and you can tell from the text that it is a Class 20 diesel. So if we turn to the side, you can see its product code is 32-034A, Class 20, number 20141 in BR green with a full yellow end. And as you can see, it's weathered. And it says 21 pin DCC, which I've already fitted it with. So the loco isn't actually, as you can see, is not in the box. If you turn to the back, you can see you get tons of information about the class. You see, if you want to have a read through it, you can pause the screen. But basically, the Class 20s were one of the first diesel locomotives to be produced by British Railways. They were produced under the modernisation plan as part of the pilot scheme. The first examples were built in 1957, and the first batch continued to be built from 57 until 1962. A second batch was built from 1965 to 1968, and by the end of production 228 of these locos were built, and they were one of the most successful Type 1 diesel locomotives built. In fact, I'd go as far as to say they were the most successful Type 1 diesel locos built by BR, because most of the other ones were pretty rubbish, like the Class 15s and the Class 17s, pretty rubbish designs, very unreliable. But the Class 20s were very reliable, and they were pretty stable, and they were used mostly on goods trains, but occasionally they would work passenger trains as well. They remained pretty stable until the late 1980s, when withdrawals began, and their withdrawals continued throughout the 90s and the 2000s. But as of 2022, there are still a few in mainline service. Now, DRS, who were one of the last operators of the Class 20s, they withdrew their Class 20s a couple of years ago, but I think there is another company who still does run Class 20s, which is really incredible, considering the design is well over 50 years old. Some are 60 years old. The fact that some of these locos are still in service really shows how well they were built. By the way, they were built by English Electric at the Vulcan foundry, and some of them were also built by Robert Stevenson and Hawthorns. So it's a classic British diesel locomotive, the Class 20. Anyway, we're going to put the box to one side, and we're going to take a look at how it is represented in model form. The loco itself is right here. Wow. Wow. As you can see, she is absolutely beautiful. The weathering I absolutely love. I mean, just look how grimy and dirty it is. It really looks like it has worked. It's not just clean. It really has worked. I mean, just look at the detail in the where the exhaust pipes are. That is incredible. Anyway, let's start at what I like to call the front of the engine, which is the cab end. Now, these details here I've fitted myself because they do come in the detail pack, and I've basically tweaked with the decoder setting so that the front of the engine, because if you buy this by default, the front of the engine is this, so if you put it into forward, it will run nose first, but I've tweaked the decoder setting to make it run cab first. I just prefer it that way. Obviously, these were preferred. Drivers prefer to drive these from the cab end because obviously you had a much clearer view of the track. And obviously, these didn't work on their own too often. They did sometimes, but most of the time they'd be paired with another member of their class, and obviously they'd be coupled nose to nose to provide extra traction. But anyway, let's have a look at the model itself. This one, as you can see, is the head-coded version, and it does have sprung buffers. which is a really nice touch, and that's on all four corners of the loco. Now I will say just one criticism of this model: there are no working lights. That is a big disappointment. You know, considering the spec of this model, it's a pretty high spec model. The fact that it does not have working lights is a big disappointment. It's not a tough thing to do. It could have easily been done by Bachmann. I mean, this is a fairly old model. It's not a more recent edition of the Class 20. I believe the more recent releases of the Class 20s do have working lights, but it's really something Bachmann could have done years ago, because they did it on other models. I just really like working lights on my diesel and electric locos and stuff. So not having working lights is a bit of a shame, which is the only letdown of an otherwise really nice model. Another thing which I really like is how the windscreen wipers, they're clean, where obviously the wiper would have been working, but then the windscreen itself is absolutely filthy, where obviously it doesn't, the wiper itself doesn't reach. So overall this model is really nice, because you get these separately fitted handrails running along both sides of the body, and then meeting at the sort of foot plate at the front. And for considering the size of the engine, I mean, it's not a big engine, but it is really heavy. That will definitely have loads and loads of traction. Traction really is not an issue with this model. I really like the door handles which have been picked out. That's a very nice touch. And there's the front of the engine. I just love how sort of skinny this end is, and then obviously this end is quite a bit wider. But I just love the design. It's such a unique, quirky design. It's a classic. It's a classic British diesel. That's all I can say about it. Rear, some lovely detail on the bogies, and if we look at the top, you can see that there is no fan underneath, which is it's a bit of a shame, because you can clearly see the decoder I've used. Basically, I didn't have a 21-pin decoder, so what I've done is I had a spare 21 to 8-pin adapter, and I've just used one of my 8-pin decoders, but it works fine. To be honest, I really don't see the point in the 21-pin decoder in this if it does not have working lights. That obviously I'm going to go on about it, but it is a bit of a letdown. It is quite a letdown, because it would have been really nice. All of the diesel locos come as most of the diesel locos anyway from Bachmann come as standard with working lights. So it's a bit of a shame that this one doesn't have any. But to be honest, the model looks really nice, and apart from the lights, I can't really complain about anything else, because genuinely the model looks really nice, and there's nothing much else to complain about it really, in terms of appearance. But yeah, overall, despite what I've said about the lights, I really do like this model, detail wise. However, let's see how she runs on the track. So here we have the Bachmann BR Class 20 on the track, and as mentioned, I've tweaked with the decoder setting to basically make the cab end the front of the loco, so when the controller is in forward, it goes cab first. Now by default, forward would be the nose end of the loco, but obviously these locos were preferred to be driven from the cab end, simply because of better visibility. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give her some juice, and off she goes. Away she does go. Now, as you can see, she does run very nicely, albeit she is quite noisy, but we'll let that pass because she's a diesel. Yeah, it's running really well. Let's get a few shots of her passing. Yeah, as you can see, she's running really, really well. And I know I keep going on about it, but it's a real shame about the lack of working lights. I mean, I'm sorry if I am kind of boring you with that, but the thing is, right, is most of the other diesels, I think the only other one which didn't have working lights to begin with was the Class 40, but you know, that was the original version. I think this is the original version too, but you know, it still could have been fitted with lights regardless. But I mean, what can you do? It still runs really nicely. So in conclusion of this video, I definitely recommend her. I mean, she is one of the most classic British diesel locomotives, and definitely one of the most successful that came out of the pilot scheme and the modernisation plan. Yeah, really, really nice. Excellent model, beautiful performer, very, very nice detail. Just a shame about the lights. But anyway, thanks for watching and see you in the next review. Goodbye.